What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Saturdays in the SEC, episode 152. Got a full week one recap tonight. We got a celebration pod for some, got a therapy pod for others on this podcast tonight. We obviously got a ton to cover, all a week one slate. Some very good games around the league, obviously, that's been highlighted. Some surprising results on at least one or two, to say the least. So, Corden, kind of where you want to start out tonight. I feel like we could go to multitude of directions, but which game you kind of want to start out this recap at?
Actually, I want to go to Big Noon Kickoff first. Obviously, that was potentially game of the year, and it was 11 o'clock our time on first weekend of the season. So, highly touted quarterbacks, Arch Manning, Julian Sayin going head-to-head. Both of them's first start in college. Both of them number one quarterbacks in back-to-back recruiting classes. We called it. We said we thought it was going to be a defensive game. They weren't going to rely too much on the quarterbacks, and they didn't. However, if they would have tried to, it would have been ugly. Neither quarterback, I thought, wowed. I thought Julian Sayin made a couple of decent drives. The touchdown throw he had, I thought, that was all the receiver. He underthrew it. Arch Manning made some good throws. And at times, he made some horrendous throws, made some good decisions, made some bad decisions. On the final drive, he hits the guy on the sideline, beautiful pass. And the next two passes, he can't hit guys wide open. I don't understand. He did have some drops there. They did have some things go against him. But I thought that it was going to be a defensive game, and both defenses absolutely showed out. I don't think that either team, whoever would have lost, obviously it was Texas, I don't think they should be penalized for losing this game. It's not like they played bad. It wasn't your normal offensive showing from Texas, but their defense they were really, really good. Really, really good. Had clamps on them all night, as well as Ohio State. Ohio State had clamps on Texas. I think that Arch held the ball too long at times, but for the most part, he had a clean pocket. They got after him a couple times, but he had a clean pocket for the most part. I don't think the receivers were getting open. Really. No. I think Ohio State was playing absolutely great defense, great coverage. So hats off to them. Again, Texas' defense, they played just as good. It's not like they got torched or gave up just home run ball after home run ball. It was, really, really good ball game. Just would have hoped to see a better offensive showing from Sarkisian. I thought it looked a little different than we usually see.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely one of the big things that stood out, I think, while the game was going on. I know we texted back and forth at one point, and I was like, man, we're not seeing the motion and some of the shifts that you see from a typical Steve Sarkisian offense. Just felt like they're almost just playing them straight up. I don't know if that was by design or anything to do with Arch and maybe being his first start, but it did look a little bit different than I think we typically see from Texas offense. And like you said, too, we expected a defensive, low-scoring type of game with two, inexperienced and young quarterbacks. But my main takeaway from the game is long-term, I don't have concerns about either of these teams, really. I felt like that was going to be the case coming out of it, regardless of who won and lost. I know both these teams are going to be contenders, and they're going to be just fine once they get into the conference season and things like that. But yeah, I thought Julian Sayin definitely had the better day, for sure. And I liked your point about Arch and Texas. Obviously, he did have some clean pockets. He missed some guys. The mechanics and footwork definitely looked off for him. I don't know if that was just nerves or just feeling a little bit of that pressure. But you're right, though. Their receivers there were not many guys open throughout the game for him. So it was just tough sledding all the way around. They didn't really get the run game going. Either side did too much. Texas outgained them, I think, 330 to 206, I believe. So, to me, the biggest difference was the red zone, opportunities that Texas missed, which was kind of a theme a year ago for them. They went 0-2 in the red zone, didn't come away with any points in those situations. So, that was definitely killer. But I feel like a lot of what we expected for the most part, but Long term, I'm not worried about Texas. Certainly, the way their defense played, and I think Arch Manning's going to be just fine. They've got the weapons there. It's going to take a little bit of time for him to get comfortable, but yeah, I don't feel. I feel better about Ohio State from what I've seen of them, just because they did more than I expected them to do, just from a defensive standpoint, for having to replace both coordinators. All the guys they had to replace in the front seven, and to be able to do what they did to Texas offense was extremely, extremely impressive. But yeah, going forward, both these teams are going to be just fine, and Texas being on the losing end of it, I don't have many concerns about them. I think Arch will be just fine, and obviously their defense looks like one of the best in the country.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I don't think that this is gonna set Texas back from getting a chance in the college football playoff. Still undefeated in conference, still have the whole year ahead of them. Like you said, they didn't play a horrible game. That they kept it honest, and they just couldn't ever find that breakaway play. However, you got to kind of wonder about the offensive line. They ran the ball pretty well, but there was times where they needed a push and they couldn't get it. You think early on the fourth down try, they tried to run it. Ohio State stuffed them. Now they did turn around and stuff them on the very next drive. Texas stuffed Ohio State, but then you look at the goal line conversion. Couldn't get there. I don't think they were terrible play calls, but you couldn't get the push you needed. You couldn't get the yard you needed in the biggest moment of the game. You had a couple drops and a couple penalties that hurt you in stalled drives. So the opportunities were there for Texas. They just weren't able to capitalize on them. I don't think that Sarkisian's going to allow that to become a habit. So, both teams are going to improve. Hats off to both of them for playing this game week one. I mean, that's a huge deal. But I think Texas is just fine. Everything's still ahead of them. I wouldn't panic. It's not like they went out there and got toasted. They went on the road and they only lost by 7, and they had multiple opportunities to have at least tied that game or taken over and won that game. So, season's there. Whole season's still intact for Texas. Obviously, Ohio State started the year off with a bang. They're a force to be reckoned with. They're going to get even better. That defense is something serious over there for Ohio State. So, hats off to both these teams, like I said.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I think Texas defense is in such a good place, and their schedule, the way it sets up, it's going to afford Arch Manning some time to get his feet under him. I mean, this is a defense that is going to keep you in every game you play in. So, like you said, I don't have big concerns about them. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Ohio State, to replace the amount of coaches and players they did, and then to come out and have this kind of performance was really big for them. And like you said, it was great for college football, a great game to kick off the season, and looking forward to potentially seeing it again down the line.
Absolutely. All right, I want to go down to Waco Friday night. Auburn kicked off their season, probably the biggest game of the Hugh Freeze era up to this point, and Auburn shocked a lot of people, me included. I picked Auburn to win. I picked them to win by 2 touchdowns or 10 points or more on this podcast. However, the way they won is what shocked me. 38 points in week one. That against an opponent like that, the offense was looking really, really good. That's what stunned me. I did not expect the offense to be as good as it was. However, on the flip side, I did not expect the defense to be as bad as it was. I thought, stopping the run was, decent, okay. We were able to get after the quarterback a couple times. But Auburn not being able to stop the pass, little bit of a red flag goes up, kind of a problem, especially in the conference that Auburn plays in. So I thought that was something that definitely needs to be ironed out. However, with all the drives that Auburn would get up and they'd go up two touchdowns or 2 possessions, that was a point last year that when a team answered, it kind of started snowballing and Auburn let it get out of hand. Baylor answered one time, bringing it within Auburn had a 2-touchdown lead. Baylor answered, brought it within 7. And then Auburn turned around and answered again and took it up 14. Baylor answers again. Auburn returns a kickoff for a touchdown. So it's every time Auburn was tested for sure, and they didn't lay down, they didn't do something dumb and turn the ball over, they didn't give it away like they have so many times over the last few years under Hugh Freeze. Auburn found a way to win. They got the lead. They put their foot on Baylor's neck, and they didn't let up. Early on, they went down. Potentially could have gone down 10-0. However, bow their neck, get a goal line stop there early in the game. Then they're able to drive 96 yards, 94 yards, whatever it was. That was not something that has been done in Auburn football the last few years. Getting a big stop there, yeah, that's happened. But then turning around and being able to drive it 96 yards and putting a touchdown, not 3 on the board, putting a touchdown on the board, that's when Friday night when I was watching that, I was like, all right, this team could be something if they can continue to do stuff like that in the sense of answering the punch. When you have your moment, what are you going to do? Are you going to let it slip away, or are you going to, seize the moment? So it's been slipping away a lot at Auburn the last few years, but what I saw Friday night, Auburn seized the moment. They answered every bell. So, obviously there's things to get to make better. You can only tell so much after week one. I think, they can get a lot better now that they've got film against somebody else. They looked jacked up. Their energy was amazing. I thought their attention to detail was pretty good. I don't think that the lack of attention to detail was why the DBs got cooked. There was a lot of slants and drag routes being run, a couple jump balls, but for a total of 400 yards, the DBs were not locked down coverage, had 2 busted plays. One of them went for a touchdown. One of them led to the goal line stop. So there's definitely things to be worked out, but super pleased, definitely as an Auburn fan, super pleased with the showing Friday night. Excited to hear an outside fan's perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the way they were able to respond after it felt like Baylor would get a little bit of momentum, I thought probably the biggest sequence of the game when Baylor scored and cut it to 7, and then Rayshon Pleasant, I believe, ran the kickoff back in the third quarter. I thought, to me at that point, I was like, yeah, Auburn, I thought we had a game there for a minute when Auburn ran that kickoff back and immediately took momentum right back. I just thought that was such a critical play in the game when, like you said, an example of Auburn answering the punch when Baylor kind of fought back there. At that point after that, I was like, I just felt like Auburn kept them at arm's length after that the rest of the way. But, like you said, I thought they answered the punch as well. Big thing for me is and for hearing for some people, I don't believe that was necessarily their game plan to run Jackson Arnold the way they did in that game. But to me, that's such a good sign that they were able to, hey, we see what the defense is doing. We're going to adjust and take what the defense is giving us. Because, Baylor, they played that too high safety look most of the game. And I was really surprised that they didn't adjust quicker than they did. It looks like they did a little bit before half, but stuck with that for a lot of the night.
On Arnold, I could not. They didn't spy him one that I saw that I can recall. I watched the game a couple times. They maybe once or twice, but they never put a spy on him, and he just kept on and kept on and kept on. That's what I couldn't believe. They weren't changing something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was definitely felt like a lack of adjustment that you'd expect maybe Dave Aranda to make a little bit quicker. But like I said, give Auburn a lot of credit. They altered their game plan on the fly. Obviously, I think over the next few weeks you're going to see more balance and more passing to get that part of their offense and get those reps and get that going to have with their run game. But thought they owned the line of scrimmage, which is obviously key in any game. I thought Jackson Arnold's with a couple design runs, but several scrambles. I thought that opened things up for the running backs as well, who were averaging 6-7 yards a pop. So, yeah, all in all, really good show. And like you said, obviously things to iron out on the defensive side with some of the guys in the secondary. But that's a really good Baylor offense, too. That's a really good quarterback in Sawyer Robertson. And they got some playmakers. Michael Trigg was a handful. They got some guys on the outside that can make things happen. So, no, all in all, for a first game in a game that Auburn really, really needed to win. We talked going into this how critical of a game this was to get off to a good start, get some positive momentum. and get confidence for the team, for the fan base, for the staff. I just thought that was so critical. And they answered the bell and did what they needed to do. And I thought, like I said, kind of showed that, hey, this is our initial game plan, but we can alter that on the fly to what the defense is doing at, and we got what other ways we can beat you. And I think, though, and that's the way I think Auburn's going to beat a lot of people this year. It's going to be a heavy ground game. And they weren't afraid to use Jackson Arnold's legs. I mean, you got them, take advantage of them, and thought they did a great job of that Friday night.
Absolutely. I will take this moment to play devil's advocate of how great and horrendous Auburn was, or heroic Auburn was on Friday night. We were told out of fall camp, everybody was told out of fall camp, that the DB room was the best room. The DBs were the spotlight of the team, especially on the defense. The linebacker room's really good, but they were praising the DBs. A lot of young guys got a lot of playing time last year, and we were lied to, apparently. Now Baylor, they had some guys, Trigg and Cameron, and I can't recall the other guy's name that led them in catches. He had 8 catches. I can't remember his name. But it's not like they didn't have some good receivers, but the DBs, now there were some linebackers in coverage as well, so that can't go all on the defensive backs. But as a whole, what we were told out of camp, I feel like we were kind of fibbed a little bit in the defensive back room as an Auburn fan. However, still pleased with the showing. If you would have told me Auburn was going to let up 24, I'd have probably told you it's a lot closer ball game than what it was. Would have never guessed Auburn scored 38. Like I said, even after the kickoff return for a touchdown, Baylor answered that. Auburn answered right back. Auburn was able to drive it back down the field. Obviously, they ran it pretty much at will without Jackson Arnold's carry. So Auburn averaged, I think it was six yards a pop. Without Jackson Arnold's carries completely, Auburn still averaged, I believe it was 4.89 yards a carry. So just under 5 yards a carry. Carrying it at will, essentially. Offensive line looked fantastic. So as a whole, Auburn looked good, got a lot of things to build on, a lot of things to look forward to. Could be a bright future on the Plains this year. Now, let's take a trip down to Tallahassee, 2:30 Saturday. Cameron, I've been waiting anxiously since the clock struck quadruple zero in Tallahassee. What your thoughts are?
I'll be honest with you, I have thought about for the last 48 to 72 hours what I was going to say on this podcast. I've thought about it from not long after the game ended. I'm like, well, obviously I'm going to talk about this a good bit before I even get a chance to get on the podcast. But the first word that pops in my head is embarrassing. I mean, it was an embarrassing showing to open this season. I feel lied to is what I feel like. I feel abandoned. And I think the consensus in the media is people are feeling that way as well, because everything we heard about this team throughout the offseason, spring, summer, fall camp, how good the culture was, obviously the returning guys, it wasn't up to standard a year ago, obviously didn't accomplish the goals that you set out to. This was a veteran team coming back. And that was about the furthest thing from the standard that I've seen in quite some time on Saturday afternoon. And like I said, I want to preface this by giving all the credit to Florida State, because they had a great game plan. They outcoached Alabama. They outplayed Alabama. They wanted it more than Alabama. So credit to them. And I want to say this to Tommy Castellanos. He talked all offseason. And I'll give him this. He played a tremendous game, and he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He said it. He said it multiple times. He didn't take it back. He said Nick Saban's not going to save him. He said, I don't see him stopping me. And that's exactly what he went out in there and did. I mean, they didn't stop him. Nick didn't save him. My hats are off to him, because they did exactly what they said they were going to do. But looking at this from Alabama's perspective, a lot of clips have been circulating on social media. The loafing, the lack of energy, lack of effort. It just can't happen. I mean, if you want to accomplish anything of substance and get to the level you want to be at. It just can't happen. And it happened far too often on Saturday. The linebackers were absolutely abysmal. I mean, they, number one, looked slow. I know Deontay Lawson tore his ACL 10 months ago. He didn't look right. I know on one of the jet sweeps they ran, their tight end was pulling on the play, came around the end and just leveled Justin Jefferson, who's one of our best linebackers. Got pushed around, stepped behind all afternoon. I mean, like I said, I think if you're looking for any groundbreaking analysis, I'm kind of echoing what's already been out there over the last 72 hours or so, and what people saw with their own eyes. But it was a really embarrassing performance, and to come out in the first game of the year and not be fired up and not have the appropriate energy, the appropriate competitive fire, I just don't get it. It makes no sense to me. I don't see how this happens. So honestly, I'm stunned. I'm dumbfounded about how this could take place. And to be honest, I mean, it raises some big concerns. I am very, very concerned right now, along with everyone else, because not only just some schematic issues and some physicality and some toughness issues, but just the competitive character, the competitive spirit, like that's what I'm most worried about. That's got to be fixed, because if it's not fixed, this season's going down the toilet. Like, I mean, if they play and come out with the same level of intensity they did Saturday, it's a long year. Like, they have no chance. So, and I don't know how quickly that can be fixed, or if it can be fixed, because I don't feel like the effort and the competitive spirit, I don't feel like you can just flip that on like a light switch. I don't know. Maybe you can. I'm surely hoping they do, but I'm more worried about that piece of it than I am just the blunders of the schematic wise and the bust with the linebackers not fitting gaps, the bust in the secondary a little bit. Yeah, I'm worried, man. I am. I'm totally concerned, and I think it's a horrible look any time in the season. But to come out your first game, just hearing from people, I know A.J. McCarron said he was on the sidelines and said just had a weird vibe. The energy wasn't nearly what you would expect it to be, and they had a great opening drive. 16-play, 8-minute drive. And he's like, just the energy wasn't what you'd expect it to be. It faded so quickly. And one last comment before you speak on this, but I thought Ty Simpson was getting a lot of hate for this game and this performance. And obviously he was not perfect. There's a lot of things to work out. I thought there was some nervousness. I thought there was times where he had a perfectly clean pocket and he was bailing out a little early. Definitely some throws I know he wants back and a few decisions he wants back, but he really battled, and I don't think you can say that for everybody that was on the field Saturday. So I think he's getting way more hate than he deserves because I thought, battled his tail off, even though it wasn't perfect. It's never going to be, but I just want your thoughts about it because I'm pretty disgusted by what I saw.
You really put it all together. I don't really have much more to add to that. However, I do want to echo what you said there at the very end. That's what I was going to say. Is Ty Simpson? Yeah, while he was not perfect, he didn't have a ton of clean pockets. I feel like he was rolling out a lot. I feel like he was running a lot. I feel like he was the only one you could watch the game and say that dude cares. That dude wants to be there. That dude wants to play football today. Everybody else, and I'm not talking about from when Florida State answered and after the first drive. I'm talking from the first snap. They did not look like they wanted to be out there. That's something that you haven't seen when you watch that logo play for quite some time. It's not always going to be perfect. There's going to be times where the effort's not exactly what you want it to be, but there's never a time where you're looking at the game and saying those guys truly don't want to be out there. Like they just look like they would rather be anywhere else but that football field. And what blows my mind about that is it's not like that they've just played 2 rough games. They've had all off season. They've had months and months and months to look forward to this. We're being told by everybody that's reporting on them that this is one of the best teams that Alabama's going to have, one of the best defenses that we're going to see. The highest rated roster in college football, according to some. And then they roll out that showing. Talent wins a lot of times if there's effort there. Effort is going to beat out talent every time. But if you got talent and effort together, that's where you win championships. But from what I saw from snap 1 to the final snap, Bama did not want to be out there. They'd have wished they'd have been anywhere else but playing football on Saturday. That's what it looked like to me, genuinely.
I agree, 100%.
I mean, on them. I wasn't pulling for them necessarily. Like, I don't care to see if Alabama loses, whatever. I'd pay to see Alabama lose any day. But also, I like to make money. So I was just like, this is as unbiased as you could be, because I had several dollars on Alabama to cover. So I was frustrated of like, what is going on? How is everybody so wrong about this? And that's what I was just like. Just 100%, the effort, the care, the want to was not there. And it didn't seem like DeBoer really cared that they didn't care. Like, didn't see him getting at anybody on the sidelines. Didn't see any other coaches getting into anybody on the sidelines. Like, the whole staff as a whole didn't seem like they cared to be playing football that day.
No, I agree 100%. From the head coach all the way down to the water boy, nobody looked like they wanted to be there. They looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. And like you said, I haven't been so stunned by a result in a long time. And not even just things that beyond football. It wasn't even from a football standpoint as much as a competitiveness standpoint. I'm like, how you can come out in your first game of the season, you've got the roster that you have, and the disappointment last year of not accomplishing the things you wanted to. And there is absolutely no excuse for this. They got, in the effort game, they got whipped. They got whipped on the line of scrimmage. They got whipped coaching-wise. I honestly, I don't know if I've genuinely been so stunned at a result where I was like, how did that happen? And it wasn't like, we muffed 3 punts, and it wasn't like the time Alabama lost to Ole Miss 2015 where you turned the ball over 5 times. Or even last year against Oklahoma where you threw them 2 interceptions. You practically threw them 2 pick sixes, basically. 1 pick six, 1 got ran back to the 10. Okay, you could see how that would get away from you a little bit and whatnot. I mean, that was a stunning result, don't get me wrong, but it's like you had no turnovers in this game. I mean, it wasn't like you're just throwing the ball to them all the time. Like I said, muffing punts and this and that. Obviously, had too many penalties, but I mean, I hadn't been so stunned in a while, and it's a disturbing trend. I hope it gets corrected. I'll be honest, I have my doubts, as do a lot of people, because I know the talent's there to fix it. And honestly, I think DeBoer's a very good coach. I really do. I think it's beyond the coaching. I think it's a discipline thing. I think it's it's not a disciplined team. It really hasn't been in several years, even dating back to a couple Saban's last few teams. They weren't very disciplined either. Obviously, nowhere near this level. But 14 games, Kalen DeBoer's been the head coach. Every single time, Alabama's been more penalized than the other team. That's a bad trend. And I don't want to have this conversation yet, and I'm not going to go there because obviously you've already heard it on sports radio. We know what the buyout is. We've heard that the last 3 or 4 days. I'm not going there yet, but I will say this much. If this continues for too much longer, it's probably not going to matter what the buyout is. Yeah. And that's not the honest truth.
The biggest thing that got me where it was like, all right, this team may have a problem this year, is Bama gets stopped. They stop FSU, or excuse me, Bama stops FSU, and then FSU turns around right there. Bama had a chance to go, I believe, make it a 7-point game or maybe even tie it up. FSU comes up with a big stop. Bama punts it. It hits off of Florida State. Bama recovers right there. Just got 40 yards to go to score. Something like that jacks your team up and gets you going. It didn't seem like it really did anything, and they weren't able to capitalize that. When they weren't able to capitalize that drive and how bad those following plays looked, I was like, all right, Bama may have a serious problem this year, because you can't answer in situations like that and games like that. You're not going to win championship football.
I thought the same thing. I was like, look, things have been going bad today. That might have been the break that was needed. I was like, okay, you got to give turnover.
It would be in the past of Alabama football.
100%, and you did absolutely nothing with it. It's bad, man. I mean, if this continues, and like I said, these are some of the things that's like, I don't know how fast you can flip these kind of things. I mean, usually when these kind of things percolate, it usually doesn't end very well. And I'm hoping they can get things corrected this week. And the thing about it too is you're really not going to know. Even if it flips for the positive, you're not really going to know till you go to Athens in a few weeks. I mean, even if they come out, and certainly I think they'll play with better effort this week, but it's UL Monroe. Like, I don't know how much you can – I mean, you can certainly gather, and I'm going to keep a close eye on that. What's the effort look like? What's the energy on the sidelines look like? That's what I'm looking forward to more so than anything this week. But I feel like you're not going to be able to tell for sure probably until Georgia, unless it just really goes bad. But yeah, I mean it's a slippery slope for sure. Like, not only for this season, but the grand scheme of things. Like, obviously I'm as concerned as I've been in a long, long time. Because, like I said, these are not things that you don't want things said about your friend. They have no fire. They're soft. Those are not things you want to be hearing about your team anytime, much less week one. But I don't have a ton more to add than that. It's the same sentiments I think most people have already heard, but that's exactly what I'm thinking about it. And it was just embarrassing. I don't know much more to add, honestly.
I hear you. Let's go on down to South Carolina. The Battle of the Death Valleys, Battle of the Tigers. LSU goes into Clemson and stuns them. I was on record saying that they would go in there and finally break the curse and get a win. All the highly touted defensive linemen there at Clemson, yes, but they returned a lot of the guys, and last year they ranked in the 50s in total defense, so it's not like they were just a dominant defense while having some really good players. They weren't just dominant defense. My biggest holdup, though, I still thought LSU was going to win. My biggest holdup, though, was LSU's defense. Blake Baker, man, has done a phenomenal job through the portal and what he's able to do with his defense. That's a tremendous difference from last year. I thought they covered extremely well. Were able to, if not get to the quarterback, they disrupted the pocket, it seemed, pretty much every single play that they dropped back. Offensively, I thought they ran the ball a little bit better. I thought they tried to run the ball. Like, they tried to establish it more than we saw last year. And then they leaned on Garrett Nussmeier when they needed to. Now, neither one of these teams are great or had a great showing. This was some bad football, penalties on both sides. There was a turnover from Cade Klubnik. So, I mean, there was still some ugly play at times, but this was a fantastic football game, and these teams are going to be two of the teams that are in it towards the end. I think after this, LSU is, solidified. They're one of the top teams in football. You can't tell too much from one game for sure, but I think that facing a good defense like this on the road, going out and being able to establish or get an established win early on that you haven't been able to do under Brian Kelly, I thought that spoke volumes of this team. They were in it late, down late, down at halftime 10-3, and then they won the second half 14-0. So I thought this game was one of the best games that we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main takeaway for me, and as we've talked about coming in this season with LSU's previews and what's been talked about nationally, it's not knowing exactly what to expect from LSU's defense. Like, knowing they would be improved, but just how much was the main thing that I think everybody was wanting to find out about this team. And, man, they answered the bell in a huge way in this game to go into Clemson and just completely shut them down from running the football. Like you said, only 31 yards on the ground for Clemson. They outrushed them 108-31, so not a huge margin, but when you can make a team just completely one-dimensional, that's going to swing things in your favor in a big way. And, yeah, Blake Baker has done an outstanding job. They obviously upgraded the talent over the offseason to allow him to be able to make these kinds of gains. And, yeah, if this is the LSU defense we're going to get, and I think it is. I think you know, I think they're going to be able to win games just solely on their defense. And this looks like a prototypical LSU defense that we've seen so many times. If that's what we're going to get week in and week out this year, everything's on the table for LSU, from playoffs to SEC championship to national championship. That's the main thing everyone needed to see, because we know what we're going to get from Garrett Nussmeier and what we're going to get for LSU offensively. But with Blake Baker and this defense, if this is the consistent product we're going to get, like I said, which I think it will be, because they've consistently made big strides since he's been there, and now the talent's to the level that he needs it to operate the way he wants. Yeah, everything's going to be on the table for them, and to kind of get that monkey off their back with the week 1 losses and under Brian Kelly and Dayton all the way back to 2020, to go in and get a win of this caliber is huge on the resume the rest of the way. And I think from Clemson's perspective is, and I do the same thing. I get locked in so many times of, okay, this team, they were a playoff team a year ago. Like, look how many guys they have returning. That automatically means they're going to be better. That doesn't necessarily always work itself out. Not to say Clemson's not necessarily going to be better, but dating back to last year, they're now 0-4 against SEC teams. They got their doors blown off by Georgia in the opener last year. They lost to South Carolina in the season finale, or the regular season finale. Then they lost to Texas in the playoffs. Now they open this year with LSU, lose at home, which by no means are bad losses, but I think Clemson's a really good team. They're probably going to be in the college football playoff and going to have a good chance to win the ACC. I don't know if they're an elite national championship caliber team. Like, I think they're very good, and that's not to take anything away from LSU's win, but we've kind of got several data points now with Clemson going back to last year with this similar roster where they're just not able to scale up and beat those, you know, elite teams, playoff caliber teams in the SEC, and I think that's a little bit of an issue for them, but I mean, they very well could improve as well, and I'm sure they will, but I still don't know if I'd put them in those upper echelon of title contenders. And I think this game was kind of just another point to prove that a little bit.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about this defense and that they're going to be able to win them games. This offense just proved that they can, when their back's against the wall, they can turn it around and go win you a football game. They can create drives and create plays and go win football games. So if the heartbeat of the team is going to be this defense this year, and the offense just proved that in a hostile environment on week 1, it could be a rough year for anybody in the SEC that's not named LSU, because they potentially could be the best team in college football. I know it's early, and we don't know how good Clemson is. You know, you really don't know how good LSU is or any other team. One game doesn't define a season. But if the defense is going to be the identity of this team, and you got a quarterback that good that's able to do pretty much whatever he wants with an offense, this team is going to be really, really, really scary. So I think we kind of picked them to be up there in the hunt for the SEC in our preview. So I think everything's still in front of them this season for sure, no doubt, down there in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, this game just made me feel even better about him. Like you said, you hear Josh Pate say a lot. Week one, you make observations, not conclusions. There's a long way to go. This is just one. This is just one game of 12 or more that we're going to see from them. But no, it just only confirmed my feelings, and some of the things I wanted to see from their defense I saw and then some. I mean, pitching a second half shutout too in that environment against a really, really solid Clemson team was just extremely impressive. So to me, LSU's definitely one of the biggest winners of week one, and looking forward to seeing how they progress both offensively and defensively as the season progresses.
Absolutely. And I've got to call Josh Heupel and get his financial advisor because they just made the biggest cost savings of any college football team in the last 100 years. They lose a $2 million quarterback, gain one, pay him. I don't know what they're paying him, but it ain't $2 million. So they gain him money there, and then their quarterback that they gain goes out and performs better than we saw Nico perform pretty much at all last year. He looked calm. He looked like he had been in that system forever. He led the offense extremely well, Aguilar. I mean, it's not like he was playing some stand-up defense, but he wasn't playing some FCS school. He went out there and commanded the offense, made plenty of throws, was able to hit the deep ball. They were able to run it extremely well, which no one's surprised about that with Josh Heupel. But from cost savings analysis, Josh Heupel's getting an A+ in this semester of cost savings from Saturdays in the SEC, A+, because you just got rid of a $2 million pretty much hunk of junk compared to what you brought in from what we've seen. I know it's only one game, but I didn't see Nico leading the offense like that at many points last year.
Yeah, no, I mean, you make a great point. I think he looked really, really strong, and you highlighted it perfectly with the run game and the Josh Heupel offense. You know, everybody thinks of it as high flying, obviously super fast tempo, but it's run game based. I mean, this is a team that is going to run the football. I thought their offensive line was outstanding. Was able to own the line of scrimmage to open up things for the running backs. And like you said with Joey Aguilar, man, I thought he looked extremely comfortable. Thought he was very accurate in the intermediate throws as well. Like I said, hit a deep ball. Just he looked more of a fit than what we seen with Nico last year.
For sure.
And he looked like he fit that offense a lot better. Like I said, it's just one game. But I thought he had a really strong opening game for a guy that didn't get there to middle of summertime. So I thought it was a great starting point for them in this offense, and obviously defensively, some things to iron out. You know, just like any team does. I mean, there's never going to be it's never going to be perfect in week one, but I thought offensively. Did a great job, you know, defensive side, some explosive pass plays. Syracuse had 7 catches of 20 yards or more, so there's definitely, which was a question mark for this Tennessee defense in the secondary. So, like I said, some things to iron out, but I thought, for me, a lot more positives than negatives from what I saw from Tennessee's offense and Joey Aguilar in particular.
Absolutely. All right. Now, going down to South Carolina, Virginia Tech, played in a neutral site. Shane Beamer taking on his former team, the team his dad built, the program his dad built. South Carolina, Virginia Tech facing off. And from the first drive, it looked like South Carolina was going to dominate. I mean, it really, truly looked like they were going to run it up and down the field on them. However, you know, those are scripted plays. They ran them a bajillion times leading into the game. They know exactly what's going to happen. You know, when things happen and you got to change things on the move, you got to react to how the defense is changing their calls and their schemes. So, you know, it's understandable. But the first drive, they looked amazing, and then they were able to stop Virginia Tech. Defensively, this is another team that's going to be ran through their defense. This defense was phenomenal. They were all over the quarterback. They disrupted the pocket. It seemed essentially every single snap. Virginia Tech's quarterback, his name's slipping me right now. He was running for his life all game, forced a lot of bad throws. they couldn't really run the ball against them that well. And then offensively, when they needed the moment, when they needed it the most, Sellers came through, had a great drive, made some good throws. So, and then they had a kick return or a punt return for a touchdown. So special teams was a huge part in their victory. Shane Beamer always harps on special teams. Special teams win the championships for sure. Came through in the clutch for them there. But defense was the big story in this game for South Carolina. They looked, outrageous on defense. The defensive front was great. Secondary was pretty much had blankets covered over the receivers from Virginia Tech. So I thought for the most part it's a win for South Carolina. Definitely some things to get worked out on offense. Stalled out sometimes. Sellers wasn't as dominant as I thought he was going to be, but still was very good. And when they needed him the most, like I said, stepped up, made the plays. But defensively, I think that you got a lot to work with here this season, and this is going to be another good football team.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, the defense forced a couple turnovers, did a good job of getting pressure on the quarterback. And I know you mentioned Kyron Drones, the quarterback for Virginia Tech, and who's a veteran guy who's been very solid in his career. This is a pretty good Virginia Tech team, too. So this is a great win for South Carolina. Like I said, defensively, getting after him, forcing a couple interceptions, as I said. Then offensively for South Carolina, definitely some issues on the offensive line to work out. A little bit more pressure, some breakdowns that you don't want to see happen. But, man, Lenore Sellers, he's just so good at getting you out of a lot of those situations, man. He's so physical. He's so athletic. Like you said, not a superstar day necessarily on a stat sheet wise, but, man, you just see how much he affects things, man. Like I said, how he can sometimes get you out of a really bad situation, and I thought he did that on numerous occasions, breaking tackles, picked up a couple first downs with his legs that most people have no business of doing. Right. It's incredible. He's amazing to watch, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. And definitely going to watch the offensive line to see if they can get some of those issues worked out, because if he's got some protection, man, Nick Harbor is an absolute freak of nature. I think, they look like he could be poised for a super big year. Like we know how good he is from a talent perspective. It's just about him putting it all together, because he is an absolute freak athlete. I think he's a 20-second 200-meter guy, like 10-second 100-meter guy. Like he's
like 6'6"
just
on something like that.
Yeah, I think he's 6'6" through 230. Just absolutely. Yeah, one of the best athletes probably in the game of football in general. He's unbelievable. So, no, all in all, great win for South Carolina, though. And just like any team, got some issues to work through. But if their defense is playing at this level, able to force some turnovers, that's going to bode well for them and Lenore Sellers in this offense as well. But, yeah, all in all, really solid opening win for South Carolina.
Absolutely. We got some SEC on SEC ball games this week. Ball game, really. Ole Miss going to Kentucky. Ole Miss looked really, really good in their season opener. Granted, they weren't playing stellar team. Kentucky battled with Toledo, ended up pulling away there towards the end. What are you expecting to see? We talk about Kentucky a lot. We picked Ole Miss to win this game in the previews. However, we talked about Kentucky in that episode and talked about how tough they are and how they really never quit. Last year was an exception to that, but they're going to be in it till the end. They're going to let you know that they're there. They want to play football. They want to be on the field. Relentless effort. That's what you think of when you think of Kentucky football. So anything can happen. Beat them last year on the road. So now Ole Miss is coming in there, wants their revenge, but Kentucky wants to protect their turf. Anything can happen. The new team for Kentucky this year for sure. Whole new team for Ole Miss, as we've covered. However, I think Ole Miss goes in there and gets it done. Austin Simmons, just an absolute, athlete. Ball looks really good coming out of his hand. Ole Miss looked really good, well polished last week. Again, wasn't a bang up game, but the way they looked, weren't many mistakes made.
No, I'm very curious to watch this game, because I really don't know what to expect. Honestly, we talked about that Kentucky-Toledo game, and I took Toledo plus the 10.5. They end up covering that, which I was, glad of. I felt like that would be a pretty competitive game. Toledo's a good team out of the MAC, and I know Alexander talked about that during our Kentucky preview, so which was one of the later ones we did. So, yeah, not really sure what to expect. I mean, Ole Miss is definitely the better football team here. It's a 10.5 point game, or 10.5 point spread here. So, yeah, don't really know what to expect. I'm like you, though. I think Ole Miss is going to go on the road and take care of business. I think just more explosive than Kentucky, more talent than Kentucky. But you just never know with this Kentucky team under Mark Stoops. Yeah. I mean, no one anticipated them going into Oxford a year ago and knocking Ole Miss off. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's close at all. But I really don't have a great feel because I just feel like I don't know either of these teams super well yet. So I'm very curious to see how it plays out. But I definitely think Ole Miss is going to go on the road and get a win. And yeah, just looking forward to having an SEC on an SEC matchup here in week 2.
Absolutely. And then a game we talked about a couple episodes ago, the border war. Kansas coming to Missouri to take on the Tigers. Missouri's a 6.5 point favorite. Bo Pribula was able to get the starting quarterback role, and he performed really well. Sam Horn got hurt, got injured. Hate to see that. So it's the Bo Pribula show now down there in Como. So no one's really surprised. He looked really, really good, really athletic. I mean, again, they played Central Arkansas or something like that. I mean, they beat up on them. They ended up blowing the shutout late, but they hung 60-something on them. Offense looked really good, like a lot like we've seen the last few years, with a little more quarterback run. Pribula, he got his moment, and he took it. Again, we'll find out more this week playing a better team in Kansas. But from what we saw this past weekend, how can you complain as a Missouri fan?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, as we know from the Missouri previews, I'm very much looking forward to this football game here. We've had Kansas fans in the comments making their thoughts well known about what they think of the state of Missouri and this Missouri Tiger football program. I'm just hoping we get that same level beef on the football field that we got in our comments a few weeks ago. Because, there's just some old-fashioned hate here in Middle America between Kansas and Missouri. Glad this game's back. Again, another one, to be expected early in the season. You just haven't seen much of these teams. I mean, how can I get a read on Kansas when they played Fresno State and they played Wagner? I don't even know where Wagner is. So so I don't really have a ton of great, views on Kansas. Obviously, Missouri blew Central Arkansas's doors off. So a lot of unknowns early in the season, but that's why these games are so interesting. It's a 6.5 point spread for Missouri here at home. So, yeah, it should be a fun and entertaining game. Like you said, Bo Pribula looked really good in the opener after, Sam Horn got hurt, and they were kind of going to rotate those guys in anyway, but it's definitely Pribula's show now. Jalen Daniels, a veteran quarterback for Kansas, going on the road. So, yeah, it should be interesting. And a theme of this week, too, we don't have a ton of headliners, but I feel like we have a ton of, under-the-radar kind of interesting games that don't pop out on the schedule, but I think some that are going to be very, very interesting to watch and to follow.
100%. All right, I got to get your opinion on this one. Michigan's going to Norman to take on Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a 5.5 point favorite. Name's slipping me. Quarterback there, John Mateer. He looked really good in their season opener. Didn't play a brutal game. Had 4 touchdowns. He's a lot of people's chatter for Heisman this year. Coming out of Washington State, really, really nice athlete. Can spin it. Can absolutely run it. You got legs that are for real dangerous. So I think a lot of the money is going towards Oklahoma, it seems, being a 5.5 point favorite. I'm going to stay away from this game because I haven't seen enough from either one of these teams to know anything. Would lean Oklahoma to win because of it being at home, but really going to find out a lot about Mateer this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, this is the headliner game of the weekend. In not only SEC but nationally, game day is going to be here in Norman. John Mateer, really great quarterback matchup. John Mateer, Bryce Underwood, the phenom, true freshman from Michigan, the number one player coming out of high school in the past cycle, looked good in their opener as well. I'm like you, don't really know exactly what to expect. You don't have a lot to go off of on both these teams, so feel like we're going to find out a lot. But with this being in Norman, definitely going to lean OU's direction. But it should be a very fascinating game. And Michigan, obviously got some young pieces there with Bryce Underwood. So curious to see how he does in his first road start in a hostile environment. I think that's going to be very beneficial for him and his development going forward. But yeah, John Mateer looked strong in the opener. I'm excited to see him to go against a quality opponent here in Michigan.
If you were to pick just money line, who you taking?
OU Michigan. I'm going OU's direction. Just being at home, I feel like I know more about them, and Michigan's a team too. You look at that. Obviously had a disappointing year last year, but beat Ohio State at home and beat Alabama in the bowl game. Had some momentum going in the offseason. Now starting a true freshman quarterback. Just feels like they're not quite back to the level they had, obviously being the 2023 champs. Feels like they're another year away, another cycle away of getting some more pieces in there. So I don't think they're ready to win this type of game yet, honestly. And I just know with Oklahoma's defense going into Norman, that's going to be a tall order for a very young quarterback. So yeah, I'm definitely going OU's way, but 5.5 point line, I'm staying away from it, but I'm going OU's way in a fairly close game.
I like it. Who's your player of the week from the conference? Who are you going to go player of the week? Just if you got one off the top of your head, somebody that stuck out. We ain't got to keep this in if we don't want to. So, who's your player of the week this week?
I guess right off the top of my head, just the first one that hits me is Joey Aguilar. I think that was my initial thought. I haven't done a ton of research into it as far as stat lines go, but I think the way Aguilar played, and especially when you consider the circumstances, coming in such short notice in the summertime, he's in UCLA for a cup of coffee, then bam, he's in Knoxville trying to learn this Josh Heupel system. To be able to come out and play the way he did in week one and the level of comfort that he showed, to me, was just extremely impressive and not what I expected considering the circumstances they found himself in. So, yeah, if I'm going to SEC Player of the Week, just right off the top of my head, it's got to be Joey Aguilar and the way he performed in this game. It was very, very encouraging.
My player of the week this week is Harold Perkins. He kind of looked back to his former self when he won Freshman All-American, was maybe not stat sheet not lighted up. He had a sack, a couple of tackles, but he disrupted a lot of plays. He was in a lot of plays, wreaking havoc. So his presence was felt every time he was in the game. So Harold Perkins is my player of the week for week one this season.
I love it, man. He's such a critical part of that defense. It's good to see him back healthy, too, and performing at the level because he's an absolute game wrecker when healthy. And, I love that pick. He's going to be a big part and a big reason why LSU's defense is going to be as good as it is this year. I did want to get your thoughts, and I know, again, we may not have a ton of data points on these teams, but another interesting game, I think, for week two that I'm going to be watching, and a lot of these games are night games. That there's like 3 or 4 that I'm highly, highly interested in. But Arizona State going on the road to Starkville to play Mississippi State. We saw this game a year ago. Mississippi State went on the road, played well. Obviously, at the time, we didn't know exactly how good Arizona State was. Ended up being the Big 12 champ and a playoff team a year ago. Kind of what are you expecting in this game with Arizona State coming to town?
Arizona State returns a lot of people, so I mean, I think they're just roster-wise better than Mississippi State. I think they win. I think it's a dogfight. I think Arizona State probably pulls away later. Mississippi State had a pretty good showing against Southern Miss, but I just think that Arizona State's better. It's just head to toe. I think it's going to be a lot of talent and give a crap because Kenny Dillingham, he's not going to let his guys be flat out there. So I'm giving the nod to Arizona State just because they return a fair amount of people.
Yeah, another one I'm very curious to see that's in that nightcap as well. We just saw them against South Carolina. That's Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Vandy going to Virginia Tech. Saw this game a year ago, which was such a huge win in week 1 for Vandy and really was the win that catapulted them to the type of season that they had and gave them some early confidence and in the Clark Lee era. But 1.5 point line, Virginia Tech's a 1.5 point favorite at home against Vandy. How do you kind of see that one shaping out in this rematch there in Blacksburg?
I'm taking Vandy plus 1.5. I'd take Vandy money line. Yeah, it's cool down there. The intro's cool, but it's no SEC stadium. It's no atmosphere that these guys have ever played in. Give me Diego Pavia. I think he's going to will them to a victory. I think Vanderbilt's defense was really good last year in comparison to what they had been. I think they're going to be even better this year. I think offensively we know what they are, and they're just going to bully you, and they're going to say we're tougher than you are. Try and stop us. And that's what you're going to see. And I think that Vanderbilt goes in there and gets a win in a really cool environment.
And the last game that I'm curious to watch, and not necessarily that I think it's going to be as close as some of these other games we talked about, but I think under the radar, a really good team had a huge win in week 1. And that's South Florida going on the road to Gainesville to play Florida. Alex Golesh, I think, is probably going to be one of the hotter names in the country before too long, if he's not already. I mean, he's already made a big impression there in Tampa with the Bulls. Had a huge week 1 win against Boise State, 34-7. And this is team Byron Brown's like an 8th-year returning quarterback for them. I feel like he's been there forever. This is a guy that was a Josh Heupel disciple, as I've liked to say in the past. But he's got a really good team there with South Florida, and like I said, I don't think they're going to go in Gainesville and win. But this is a game if you're Florida, and Florida's got some huge games coming up. They got LSU next week. They got Miami the week after that. Like, this is a game I could easily see you overlooking, but you can't overlook this South Florida team. Like, this is a very good team in the American Athletic Conference.
You think South Florida covers 17.5?
I'm going to look at it closely. I'm not going to say for sure yet. That's definitely one I want to look into a little bit more. Wouldn't shock me, though, because like I said, I think this is a game that if you're Florida, and I'm just going to pull their schedule up real quick, their next 4 games after South Florida. So they got South Florida Saturday afternoon. Week after that, at LSU, then at Miami. Then bye week, Texas at home at Texas A&M. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Number one, I don't know if anybody's got a tougher 4-week slate than what Florida does. Those 4 and 5 weeks. But having a South Florida team like this in front of that, I could see human nature, how you could overlook them a little bit. So I'm just not putting Florida necessarily on upset alert or anything.
Put it against them is what you're saying.
No, exactly. Because last time I've seen my own team, and this isn't in Tampa, but I've seen my team sleepwalk into Tampa. I also saw my team sleepwalk in Bryant-Denny against them last year and played Alabama really close. So this is a dangerous team. So if you're Florida, definitely you got to be prepared this week because you got tough ones coming up. This Bull team's for real though.
Yeah, they're gonna get after you for sure.
That's it, man. Just really want to appreciate everyone tuning in. Hope they enjoyed the week 1 of the college football season. From Thursday all the way to last night to Bill Belichick getting smoked in his debut, unfortunately there. But just be sure to subscribe to the channel, like and subscribe. We really appreciate that. started posting some shorts on the YouTube channel. Those have gotten a lot of traffic and comments. We appreciate that. The TikTok channel's doing great as well. Appreciate the views over there and a lot of the feedback you guys are giving. Follow us on Twitter at Saturdays_SEC. And we just really appreciate you guys tuning in. And looking forward to week 2 and recapping it again next week.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.